start it because I always start it.
Did we tell them our names?
See, the thing is, we're acting like these people aren't gonna already know who we are.
But they might. What if in 5 years we're famous? And then they're going to be like, wow, remember when they did their first podcast? What were their names?
I should practice my signature if I'm going to be famous. That's all I'm saying.
Ah.
Anyways, I'm Kelly.
I'm Megan.
And welcome to M&K Unscripted. We are doing part 2 of Dating and Donuts. We're going to talk a little bit more about dating in terms of, like, relationship dating, and also about whether guys and girls can be just friends.
I'm really excited because I did a super academic research experiment on this and took an Instagram poll of my Instagram followers of whether guys and girls can be friends. And I got over 120 responses to this poll, which is cool. My question was literally, can men and women just be friends? So yeah, I also allowed space if someone didn't want to just say yes or no, that they could elaborate a little bit. So you don't know any of the results, do you?
I'm really excited to react to this.
What are you get a raw reaction
Yes.
from Kelly. What is your guess? Do you want to guess about like how it went?
I'm gonna do a little context here of why I am gonna guess what I'm gonna guess. So because of the way that you phrased the question about whether women and men could be just friends, I'm gonna say, like, so many people said they can. Like, I'm gonna say like 90%. Because I feel like there's more nuance. I think it depends on how close of friends they are and if you're hanging out with them one-on-one. And I think that is something that wasn't asked in the poll that would have maybe influenced more people to say, no, they can't.
That's fair. Yeah, actually, you're pretty spot on. 92% of people said yes.
Wow.
8% said no, which is fascinating. I also got a couple people to like actually like elaborate a little bit. I'll have to look through these a little bit, but a lot of people were like, absolutely, they can just be friends. Several people said like depending on your sexuality. So like if someone is gay, then like people of like different sexes could be just friends, because like there's not a possibility of there being romantic feelings. So a couple said that. A couple said like it gets sketchy. Someone said someone ends up always wanting to sleep with the other person. There's usually feelings like on one side or the other side, like at some point. Some people DM'd me because there wasn't enough space in the box to say all that they wanted to say. And one of my friends said that basically they can be friends, but at some point in the relationship, there is going to be feelings on one end or the other, and something will get complicated. But if they can work past that, then they can just be friends, which I feel like is really fascinating. And actually, almost exactly what I just said came from both men and women. Like, both people said, yes, you can just be friends. And then some guys said, no, like, you can't just be friends because someone ends up liking the other.
I feel like there's so much nuance to it that I really want to unpack there. Because last night we were talking with a lovely group of friends. The majority of them guys, who were kind of asking them about their opinions. And one of the guys was like, no, they can't just be friends if it's like one-on-one. And I think there were differing opinions there, but I feel like I tend to agree depending on how close you are as friends. Like, if we think about like a guy having a girl best friend that's not his girlfriend, like, I don't know, at some point I just genuinely think like there has to have been some sort of romantic intentions or feelings, whether there is like it was like a very extended period of time or something, I don't know. But I don't know, I feel like if it's like a friend group or it's like guys and girls, like, yeah, there are guys that like I just see as friends that I've just like simply never thought about them in that way. but I don't go out and like spend a ton of one-on-one time with them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like it's very different depending on the context of like if you're spending one-on-one time and like for a long time and like, but if it's like a friend group, then I feel like you can certainly just be friends.
Yeah. I feel like this is interesting because I've started to develop more male friendships than I used to have in the past. So in the past, I feel like my answer would have been for sure no, because every male friend that I had, I developed feelings for. And so I was like, well, based on personal experience, like, no, because like the guy friends that I do have, I developed feelings for because I was spending time with them, whether that was one-on-one or in a small group or whatever. I feel like I always at least considered them romantically, which I wonder how often that happens and people don't talk about that, or do talk about it. I don't know. But I don't know. I feel like now, also because of where I'm at in my dating experiences currently, I feel like I'm trying really hard to like focus on male friendships. Because as we said in our episode 1, if you didn't go see that, like, I think most great relationships are started on the foundation of friendship. And so I feel like sometimes it's difficult to be friends of somebody with somebody of the opposite gender and not at least consider them as a romantic partner. But also I agree, like, there are situations where, like, for whatever reason, like, I really value the friendship that I have with them, but I just want to be friends.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a difference, too, when you're talking about, like, considering and, like, just having it cross your mind. Like, we were talking to one of our friends a different time, and he was, like, saying how sometimes, like, when he first meets a girl, like, it might cross his mind, but once he's, like, in the friendship, like, he doesn't think about that anymore. Like, it might be, like, an initial, like, oh, and then it's like, oh, no, that's not.
Yeah, and then that specific friend is really good at just keeping you in the friend zone. Like, he's really good at that, and he has a lot of female friends. I think about the same person.
I think we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I have talked to other guys that have said that, like, basically what I said before, that, like, they have never successfully been friends with a girl without, like, catching feelings, or, like, he didn't elaborate, like, what that meant, but, like, at least considering them romantically.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I feel like it just brings up the point that it really just depends on, like, the person.
Mm-hmm.
And some people I feel like are really good at just, like, not crossing over into the romantic feelings. I don't know.
Yeah.
And, like, weeding through people. I don't know. It sounds bad, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. A couple people on this poll said, like, our society plays a huge role in how, like, it's perceived. Actually, that was somebody's comment, like, which basically I think what he's getting at is that they can be friends, but from the outside it looks like, oh, you can't just be friends. There has to be something more going on because guys and girls just can't be friends, which is super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one said, like, not in U.S. culture. So it makes me wonder if, like, that's like a U.S. culture thing. That, like,
yeah, interesting.
The expectations are that guys and girls can't be friends.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said that it's degrading to both men and women to think that they can't just be friends.
You know, I kind of agree with that. I feel like it gives, I don't know, it makes us seem like we're just, like, not able to control ourselves, or, like, not be able to, like, respect a person enough to just be friends. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, someone also said, one of my friends is married, and she said that, like, it's different because a lot of her male friends are either friends of her husband or they're husbands of her friends, if that makes sense. So she has female friends, and her female friends are also married or in relationships, and so then she's friends with just both the man and the woman. And so in that situation, it would, like, be in a group, that it's not like a one-on-one friendship.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree that the context is everything, which is also what somebody said. And depending on the background of the friendship. Like, I feel like if you, like, start a friendship and then something happens for whatever reason, and then you're able to, like, move past it and, like, still be friends, then like that just depends on the friendship, and then I feel like you're able to
Mhm.
successfully do that, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, that's true. That's so interesting that so many people had different opinions about that too.
That was super interesting.
Yeah, very credible too. Love the fact that it was just on an Instagram story, you know?
Yeah. Well, I feel like I got a good, I don't want to say cross section, but like I got a lot of people that got to share their opinions,
Mm-hmm.
both men and women. So that was kind of fun.
Little do they know they're on this little podcast here.
Yeah,
That's
shout out.
exciting.
Shout out all the people I anonymously referenced.
Yeah. That's so true. Where do we go next?
We could go so many places. Do you want to talk about my next thing is gender roles in a relationship?
Interessante. We kind of mentioned that in our first part of this podcast and talking about like roles in relationships.
Kind
and,
of like guys making the first move, like how do you feel about like girls making the first move, or like what does it mean for a girl to show interest in a guy, and like what does that look like, and what are people looking for signs that someone is interested?
Yeah, I feel like, this is such a loaded topic. Like we could talk about it in so many different ways. I feel like it just makes me think of like dropping the handkerchief, you know? Love
Can you
that.
explain the term dropping the handkerchief if somebody doesn't know?
Yes. So historically, people had handkerchiefs, right? You know, you didn't have Kleenexes. You didn't have tissues. You just had a little handkerchief that you would just like walk around with, and so everyone had one. And girls would drop it in front of a guy that they thought was attractive, like obviously nonchalant, like not stupidly, or maybe they did. Maybe
I wasn't there.
Maybe it was
so
obvious.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
we weren't born. Anyways, and then the idea would be the guy would know, oh, I should go and pick this up for this girl, and it's kind of giving like, I'm gonna do this thing for this girl because she dropped this because she was interested in me, so I'm gonna pick it up and give it to her, and then they like start a conversation.
See, I feel like, I wasn't there, but I feel like it's not, like, it wasn't that obvious. Like, guys weren't like, oh, she likes me because she dropped her handkerchief. It, like, the women knew that. Like, the women were the mastermind in the situation, and they were like, oh, I'm gonna happen to drop my handkerchief by this guy. But he was just like, oh, she dropped this, like, obviously I need to pick it up. And then, like, that, they were able to, like, start a conversation.
Yeah.
I don't actually know if that, happened either. That's just, like, a phrase that we use in current day society, I guess you could say.
So that's what that means. So when
Yeah.
we're talking about that, we're talking about little signs.
Yeah. Like, yeah, dropping the handkerchief, like when a woman would drop a handkerchief, metaphorically, it's not a super explicit sign that they like somebody. Like, they're not asking them out on a date. They're not saying, I like you, but they're giving some type of hint that they are interested. Which,
So
as a woman, I honestly find infuriating, and sometimes I feel bad for men.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because, like, how are you supposed to know if someone's just being nice or if they're flirting and interested? And I think that goes both ways. Like, how are women supposed to know if guys are just being nice?
I don't know.
I'm asking you like you're a man, but you're not. I don't know.
Yeah, you're asking the wrong person here.
Yeah.
Because I have yet to figure that out. But I feel like we should talk about ways that we've dropped a handkerchief, you know, to help out our male audience.
Oh, that's fair. Usually I'm like, do you want to go on a date with me?
See, that's the difference between Megan and I.
Yeah.
We are not the same. We are very opposite in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Kelly, that's
Go
why I'm
ahead.
going to talk for you. It's very important to Kelly, like a trait in a man, that he has the confidence and the initiative to be the one to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, me too, like, same. But also I feel like my impatient side more comes out, and I, like, become explicit faster.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've ever explicitly told somebody you like them yet. I mean, obviously, you're probably going to sometime in the future.
Hopefully.
But hopefully.
Stay tuned. Just kidding.
Indubitably. But, like, I have, like, several times. Like, I have asked people on dates. And they both said yes and no.
Both of them.
Well, the same person didn't say yes and no, but, like, I've done it
You
several
said
times.
yes and then no.
Yeah,
Actually, I changed my mind.
no.
That reminds me of, this is very off topic. You know the like Minnesotan or like thing where it's like yeah no
yeah, the
or
code
no yeah
to Minnesota language.
Yeah.
No
yeah no
means no,
yeah.
and no yeah means yeah.
Which anyways,
Stupid.
that is so not on topic. But I'm so sorry. It's unscripted if you can't tell. What were we talking about?
Dropping the handkerchief. How you show someone you're dropping the handkerchief.
Oh yes.
Well, we were also
you
talking
were
about me
you were
asking
like
people out.
you just go up to a guy and like you want to go on a date.
Yeah,
That
which
is
like
very
not
much-
always. Like even okay, that's okay. I will
Lies.
say, let me hear
I'm
me out.
sorry.
Hear me
I'm
out.
sorry.
I feel like I more do that because I'm impatient. Like in the perfect world, I feel like I would like the validation of someone like telling me that they like them. But also I feel like being honest and upfront is one of my strengths. And so if that's not a man's strength, but like I still like them, like I'm willing to do it.
Yeah.
But also like in a perfect world, like it would just happen on my timeline and then they'd ask me out and then I'd say yes and we'd all live happily ever after.
Just hasn't happened yet.
That hasn't happened yet.
No.
Usually the timing just makes me go absolutely insane and then I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. And then I either like bring up the conversation or I ask them out.
See, I think the great part about the fact that we are both very different in this is that guys are also different.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy that is gonna like Megan might be someone who doesn't like feel as comfortable being that brave.
Yeah.
And a guy who's gonna like me is probably gonna be someone who's a leader and initiator and somebody who will explicitly ask me to go out, you know?
Yeah. Or like at the very least it won't bother them.
Yeah.
Like, because sometimes, like, when I've said that to people, they're like, oh, no. That would, like, no, I want to be the one to make the first move. And I'm like, well, I don't know if we get along well, because I'm just, like, so upfront and, like, blunt and bold and honest. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it really just depends, you know?
Yeah, so here's a question for you. So I know my biggest dropping the handkerchief is just like explicitly talking about it, but like what are other more subtle ways to drop the handkerchief for the girly pops out there and the guys who
are so curious.
Yeah,
Because they want to know our opinion.
they want to know all our secrets.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to give you the tea today. I'm obviously only speaking for myself and Megan's only speaking for herself. So
Well, I can speak
all
for Kelly
women.
too.
Yeah.
And Kelly can speak for me. That's fine.
Yeah. But anyways, I feel like guys appreciate like being paid attention to. Like who doesn't?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you like I'll ask him questions or I'll just simply like look at him while he's speaking. Like
Eye contact.
Yeah, apparently that's like a big thing for guys, which like I suck at eye contact.
I feel like we should be more like saying maybe because we are not men, and so like if this is wrong, you should tell us. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that from guys before.
Okay, I've never heard it from guys. I've heard it from social media.
Okay. Well,
Anyway,
anyways,
but yeah, eye contact. Paying
Yeah.
attention to them.
paying attention. I am such a quality time person, so like spending time with you is important.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just like making jokes. Like I'm such a jokey person. Like I can take things seriously, but I guess I don't know. I don't want to say that I'm like a Rizzler over here because I don't have a boyfriend. But
Kelly's a Rizzler.
so I'm not saying that this actually works, but I feel like if you notice a girl like I don't know, making fun of you and like a nice like I don't think being mean to guys is gonna make them interested at Megan. Anyways.
I was gonna say I'm such a roaster.
Yeah.
Sometimes I cross lines, and when I say sometimes, I mean about 60% of the time I cross lines.
So I feel like
So if I say something that's like blatantly offensive to you, and I meant it as a joke,
it probably
I'm
means
so
that she
sorry.
likes
It probably
you.
was.
But I also think that just like genuine compliments, like I've appreciated, like one guy told me that he saw Jesus in me, or like he saw that God was important to me, and I was like, wow, I remember that like explicitly. And so like I feel like complimenting guys and like I don't know, I don't know. I don't know if guys actually appreciate it, but
Well, I feel like it depends, and we can talk about love languages after this, but like if words of affirmation are important to them, then they will appreciate that very much.
mm-hmm.
Also, I'm such a big physical touch person. That's my number one love language. And so I feel like for me, like one of the like most natural ways that I show somebody I like them is that I try to like break the physical touch barrier by whether like sitting close to you or like putting my like nudging your shoulder with my hand or just like I love hugs. So like giving people hugs. But also I feel like I don't know, lately I feel like that sometimes gets messy because I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. So I feel like I don't know. I feel like that could be a concern for guys too because it's more of a society norm that like men make women uncomfortable than women make men uncomfortable. But I feel like that's also a reason sometimes why I hesitate to like break the physical touch barrier because I don't want to, well, for one, sometimes I think it's embarrassing when it's so obvious I like you, so then I'll like try to play it cool. Because for me, like if I'm physically close to you, like man, I'm gone. Like it is, I'm down bad usually. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's like a little more obvious in a way. Like if someone's like trying to be really close to you and like inside your bubble, that like there's probably something going on because if they just want to be friends, usually they keep their distance.
Yeah. I feel like that's a great transition into love languages.
Sure. Do you want to talk about love languages?
I love talking about love languages. That's like one of my favorite things to talk about.
Should we name the 5 love languages? There's a love language quiz out there. If you haven't taken it, highly recommend. You can just Google love language quiz. And it gives you like different prompts of what is important to you and how you feel loved. And then it gives you one of the 5. So the 5 are physical touch. So you appreciate like hugs and just like being like physically close with each other. Quality time, which is like you like spending time with people. And if someone spends time with you, then you feel loved. Acts of service. So doing things for people. Words of affirmation. So like just saying nice things to people and giving people compliments. And then gift giving, which is like thinking of somebody and like giving them a gift. Not necessarily that like costs a lot of money, just like thinking of them and like giving them a token of affection, you could say.
Mm-hmm. That was a great description.
Thanks. I didn't practice.
She was, for the people that are listening, she was counting them on her fingers so she could remember.
I'm a very visual person. I was like, okay, those are the 5.
So, let's just name our...
Yeah, what are your top love languages?
Quality time is number 1. I'm a quality time girly. And acts of service. I think the order most recently, which like it kind of changes every once in a while, but quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation, physical touch, and gifts. So I feel like sometimes we were talking about how like it's not like you don't need all of those things, but like the ways that you feel most loved tend to be like your top 2 or 3. So it's not like I don't ever need physical touch. Like that is not the case at all. But like if somebody doesn't give me physical touch, I'm not like, oh my gosh, you hate me. It's more of like if somebody doesn't want to spend time with me, I'm like, okay, you don't like me. Like that is a sign to me that you don't like me. But if you're not giving me a hug, I'm not like, oh, I'm offended by that. So, but it's not like I never need a hug. So I feel like that's kind of the way that you could describe the differences between love languages. Yeah. What are yours?
So my top, like I said, is physical touch. Did I say that already?
You did.
Okay. Yep. So my top is physical touch. I'm honestly, I think I'm one of the best huggers that I know. I love hugs. I love them so much. I think my top... See, when I last took the quiz, my second one was quality time, but also I feel like acts of service are becoming very important to me. So I would probably say those are the next 2, quality time and acts of service. And then I would probably say... See, I don't know. Because also, I feel like I appreciate gifts more than I used to. Just like when someone thinks of me and like just gives me a little something. I'm like, that's so sweet. Like my dad came to see me at work today and he brought me flowers. And like that's the cutest thing. Like hashtag goals. Like
for real. He's setting the standards high.
For real. I was like, that just like made me so happy. It's like a teeny tiny little bouquet of flowers. And it's the cutest little thing. And like I feel like sometimes when I go to see people, like I'll bring them flowers or like sometimes I'll buy Kelly a cookie. And, like, it's just, like, a little thing like that. And so I feel like, I don't know, that's probably becoming a little more important to me than it used to be. And then probably words of affirmation. Even though, like, I still really like words of affirmation, but I'm also not great at giving words of affirmation, which I feel like is an interesting reflection of, like, it poses the question, is our love languages, like, what do we show? How do we show love the most? Like, do you think you show love the most through your top love languages, or is that the way that you receive them? And do you think that showing love and receiving love are, like, in the same rank? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think in general, I'm naturally inclined to show love the way that I receive love.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, like, if you know that, like, say I know that you like hugs and you're, like, sad or you had a rough day or something, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give Megan a hug, even though I don't need the hug. Well, I mean, I do, but, like, that is not as important to me. And I'm like, okay, because I know Megan likes hugs, I'll give Megan a hug. And it's like that sort of stuff where, I don't know, you adapt to knowing what other people want. Like, I know, like, one of my other friends, like, really likes words of affirmation. And I'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to be more intentional about giving her words of affirmation because that's something that she values. Even though it's, like, not something, I mean, it's third on my list. It's not, like, the lowest one, but it's not something that I'm, like, normally as, like, inclined to do, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like that's also why it's so important that you know your own love languages and you know the love languages of those you love. Mm-hmm. Because, like, if I think that the best way that Kelly receives love is through physical touch because that's so important to me and I, like, that's how I try to show her love, like, she's just not going to receive the love in the same way. And so I feel like knowing what is important to people around you is a good way to show them that you care.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I feel like also, I don't know if they're, like, other love languages, but, like, to just say that love is only in, like, shown in 5 different ways, I don't know, it seems limiting to me.
I feel like it's just categories.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's a lot of different things, but you can, like, put them into 5 categories.
Yeah, that's fair.
There might be more categories, but...
Yeah, I can't think of an example that doesn't fall into it off the top of my head, but I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of different ways that you can show people you love them. I think it's interesting because, like, also we were talking about this recently, of, like, how your parents showed they loved you and, like, how that might have affected, like, my parents are not super huggy people. Like, I feel like they become more huggy now that I don't see them all the time. Like, I hug them more. But that's just not really, like, I don't know. I'll still hug them, but that's not, like, physical touch is not, like, a big thing in my family. And so, like, that has never been a way that I've, like, received love necessarily. And, like, quality time is very much, like, I'll just go and, like, sit in one of my brother's rooms and just, like, chill there for, like, hours. And, like, that's just how we show that we love each other. And, like, my dad, like, I feel like he's an acts of service type of guy. Like, I don't know. He'll care about my finances and, like, he'll check in on me and, like, be like, how are you doing? And, like, will just show up for me. And, like, that is the way that he shows he loves me. And so, like, I don't know. Like, it's not like my parents are super, like, oh my gosh, I love you so much. And, like, words of affirmation-y. But I know that they still love me even though I don't, like, hear that, like, 24/7 because of, like, them showing they love me or, like, just spending quality time with me. So I feel like how you're raised can influence that. I mean, not saying, like, maybe I could have gone on the other end of the spectrum and been like, okay, I didn't, like, physical touch wasn't something that was, like, super common in my household, so now, like, I need that. But that's not how it ended up happening for me. So
yeah, I feel like mine's a mix because my family isn't huge on words of affirmation, and so I feel like sometimes I struggle to, like, give genuine words of affirmation unless, like, I know we're thinking of the same friend that, like, words of affirmation are so important to her, and so I feel like I just naturally tend to give more words of affirmation because, like, she gives them, I give them, it's just, like, a natural thing. Whereas I feel like in my family it's, like, not natural, so then it, like, I don't even do that. Like, even us, like, I love Kelly so much and, like, we never say it. And, like, sometimes we do, and we're like, nah, that was awkward. Okay, moving on.
That's so real.
But like
though.
I know, like you just know, like based on like our
Yeah.
other love languages, like how we feel. But yeah, I think that I don't know. I'm reflecting on physical touch because like my family isn't a huge physical touch family, which is interesting. I think my dad is. I think that's probably where I would get it. Like my dad just like when we were walking around at my work today, when I was showing him around, like I was walking in front of him and my mom, and he just like grabs my shoulder and shakes me like in public. I'm like, okay, Dad, thanks. Which is just like such a him thing to do, which is like so funny. But yeah, I feel like, but like my mom is not like, I'll always hug her, but it's not like, I feel like it's probably not as important to her as it is to me. So that's interesting.
Yeah, you kind of went the opposite way of like, I didn't receive this as much, so I'm gonna like
Crave it. Like
Yeah.
you feel like craving it because you didn't receive it
mm-hmm.
otherwise. I also feel like acts of service, I don't know, I feel like it's so cool, and I feel like it's like, obviously I said acts of service is more important to me than words of affirmation, but like I don't know, like you can say you love someone all you want, but like if you can actually show them that you love them, like to me that's more meaningful.
Yeah, I feel like that's a general consensus, maybe, among people.
It's like you can walk or you can talk the talk, but can you walk the walk kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you say I love you, but what does that actually mean if you don't show me that?
Yeah, like what does that mean to you? Is
Yeah.
it just words? Or
Yeah.
like how do you love me? Like
Yeah. Yeah, so that's interesting. I feel like we've been talking about like platonically, but like also that translates into romantic relationships as
yeah,
well.
most definitely.
Like if you know what your boyfriend likes, then you might change your opinion. Not opinion, but like change how you act to like show him that you love him.
Mm-hmm. Because I feel like that's also just a part of relationships. Like it's partially self-sacrifice in a way, to an extent, like knowing what's important to them and like giving them what they need
Mm-hmm.
versus just like giving them what you think that you want to give them. I don't know.
Yeah. And I feel like in some ways, I'm thinking about this of like, in like a toxic way of like, I don't know, I just think of situations where people are like, well, I'm just not a big words of affirmation person, so I'm not going to tell you I love you. And like, I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking of like the toxic things. Well, like that's not an excuse. Like we're not saying like just because you're not a words of affirmation person that you can never like express how you feel or like say things like that, or just because you're not a big acts of service person doesn't mean you can't like do something nice for the person you love. Like that's, I don't know, that just kind of popped in my brain of like you can't make excuses with love languages either.
Yeah, I'm thinking of my brother is married, and I know like physical touch isn't big for him, but it is for my sister-in-law, and so that's something that they've had to navigate, which I guess I haven't talked to them a ton about, and that would be interesting to talk to them more. But like I bet my brother could go like a long time without like, I don't know, I remember like him talking when they were dating, and just like she just wanted to like cuddle on the couch when they watched a movie, and he was like, ooh, get away from me kind of thing. But like not actually, but just,
Like, he
didn't
need
need
that.
that, and
Yeah.
like she needed that to like feel loved. And so I feel like that's an example of like you have to know what is important to them so you can give them what they need.
Yeah, I feel like loving, like to, what is it? To love you is to know you. But that's not what I'm saying. Like, you love someone because you know them so well. And like how you show you love them is because you know how they receive love. Like, I don't know if that made any sense. I kind of said that not very well. But like, you know them enough to know how they receive love, and that you're willing to like give them that because you know them.
Mm-hmm. That's why I also feel like it's so important that you know somebody before you date them, or like get to know them as you're dating them truly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like that's also, again, we've talked about this a little bit more, but like being friends, or just like knowing who they are as a person before you engage in a romantic relationship, so you can really give them what they need.
Yeah. That's so real. Oh my gosh, we're like spitting bars over here.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, I feel like I've really been focusing on that as like developing friendships before I like jump into something romantic. Which I pulled out my notebook. Maybe we can talk a little bit about.
Here,
Nice.
let me prompt you, Megan. So you have mentioned that you are focusing more on developing friendships with guys. And that really intrigues me, especially because we're talking about dating.
Wow.
And so I am really curious if you can just speak a little bit more about this focus on friendships and this kind of shift for you.
Did you know I'm currently on a dating fast?
You know, like I knew, but I don't think the audience knew. So can you please expand a little bit, like what is a dating fast?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So I decided that for a little bit here, I'm going to have a season of intentional singleness, which I had first heard about actually through Focus Missionaries. If you know the program Focus, they're present on college campuses across the United States. And so they're like college age missionaries that are working with college age students. And they, as a requirement for the first year of being a missionary out of their 2 years, they have to take a dating fast, which is just essentially, it is what it sounds like. Like you don't date, you don't like have intentions to date people, like you're not getting to know people for the intention of dating, you're just getting to know them like as a friend, I guess you could say. And I feel like that is something that, well, so one of my friends is a focused missionary, and when I learned that they were going on a dating fast, I was like, that sounds absolutely terrible. Like, why would you intentionally do that? And then my question, which my mom also asked me, like, if you're not dating anybody, like, aren't you already on a fast?
That is the ultimate roast,
which,
I would like to say.
Fair, thanks, Mom. Like, yes. But also, I feel like it's different. I feel like it's more different what your intentions are, and I feel like that's where the actual term, like, dating fast comes in. Like, just because you're not dating anybody doesn't mean that you're intentionally trying to better yourself in your relationship with God. So I feel like right now something that I'm really focusing on is getting to know myself and, like, what is important for me, and kind of dating Jesus for a while. Because I feel like it's really, really important to remember who is at the center of my life and who will be at the center of any relationship I enter into. And so I feel like I haven't really been in that mindset. And so I feel like I was just really feeling called to take a little bit of time off the dating scene. I feel like I was kind of pushing it really hard for a while there. And it made me realize, like, or question, what are my expectations here? Like, what am I trying to accomplish? And made me want to take a step back and kind of think about what's truly important and how I'm going about the dating scene. So yeah, it's been a roller coaster, but I really, really see the value and the beauty in it so far, I guess you could say.
I love that for you, Megan.
Yeah.
I think this is great.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of fun. So I haven't really found, like, a great format, or there's not, like, a guidebook for how to do it. So I've been watching, like, a couple videos about just, like, why one would go on a dating fast, and I feel like there were just some really good reasons that I resonated with. And one of the biggest ones, which I've kind of hinted at a couple times, is just to, like, learn how to be friends with people of the opposite gender. Like, I feel like we even started this podcast with, like, can guys and girls just be friends? And a lot of people think they can, but also some people, like, said, like, there's always that expectation that, like, there's going to be something romantic or somebody has feelings on one of the sides. And I feel like that's, like, while it's very natural, like, sometimes that's kind of discouraging to hear, because then how are you ever going to have a friendship with someone of the opposite gender, like, once you're married? Like, how are you going to learn how to have healthy friendships with people with healthy boundaries if you can't do it, like, when you're young and single and, like, meeting people? So I feel like that's something that really, really resonated with me, and, like, these reflection videos that I watched beforehand. I feel like that's something that I can definitely get better at, and something I feel like will really test me in, like, during this dating fast. But I also think, like, it's so beautiful to be friends with men, and I feel like that's something that I'm truly starting to value, because I don't have to have the expectation of, am I going to date you? Like, of course we're all human, like, it, like, still happens, but, like, I feel like you can really take the pressure off every encounter that you have with a guy when there's not that expectation of, like, okay, he might be dateable, like, I might be able to date him, when I can just get to know him first. Because then, say when the dating fast is over and I decide I do want to date somebody that I become friends with, then I feel like we already have that foundation of friendship, That is so important. And also I've learned like what's important to me.
Yeah. I think this is really great. What are some of the, you don't have to get too in depth because I know that it can be vulnerable to talk about. What are some of the challenges that you've been facing?
Yeah. It's been a roller coaster, I would say. I have a whole notebook about things. I feel like I can be vulnerable. I feel like it's, I don't know if it's just me. I'm only going to speak for me because I can't generalize people. But like sometimes it's hard, like I said, to, I guess, see men as something besides a potential boyfriend. Like it's been hard for me in the past to get to know people without considering. Like when people like on the Instagram poll, like I am always considering like, wow, we seem to get along really well. Like maybe this could be like a potential boyfriend for me. And then I feel like once I have that thought, it's really hard to just be friends with somebody and like take the pressure off because the pressure just immediately enters my brain of like, oh, and now I need to figure out like, are they dateable or are they not? And then every encounter I have with that person becomes like a test. And then I put it on this scale to figure out like, do they add up to like a good potential boyfriend? Which I feel like that's just so, first of all, it's not very respectful to men as a whole. Like men are so much more than just a potential boyfriend, which I feel like is something I haven't truly realized in the past. And I also feel like that's probably one of the biggest benefits I'm going to get from this. But also it's just like mentally exhausting for me. And so I feel like being able to like take that break from, oh my gosh, does this mean they like me? Does this mean like they don't? Like what is going on in their brain? Like how do I feel? There were just so many questions that I feel like now I'm like, okay, well, we don't have to worry about that because we're just going to be friends for now. And like I can just get to know them as a friend with no expectations. And so I feel like in a way that's kind of freeing, in a way that like I'm really nervous that I'm going to like make a mistake, but like a priest told me like a little bit ago, he's like take the pressure off yourself. Like it's fine. Just like do your best. God sees that you're doing your best, and that's all you can do. I was like, amen. Thank you. That is what I needed to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's fair. I mean, it's definitely the whole point of you doing this is to challenge yourself to, I don't know, have a different perspective. What, like, have you you've been doing this for how long? Like 5 days?
It's not that long. Okay.
Well, I was just going to ask
if
like
a
you've
week.
seen like any changes in yourself, but I feel like it's kind of early to ask that, and maybe that should be good for later. But
yeah, I feel like I'd love to talk about the dating fast as a whole when it's over.
Okay.
Because I feel like I felt a lot differently about it on the first day than I did on the fourth day than I do today. And so, like, obviously, like I said, it's a roller coaster. But the first day I was like, man, this is the best thing ever. The fourth day I was like, I can't do this. And now today I'm like, actually, I think I'm going to see a lot of growth internally from this for me.
That's great. So what are you most excited about with this journey? Like, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah.
She's
I
like
feel
got
like,
a whole notebook.
I was going to say, you're
notes.
like going along with all the prompts that I've been writing about, which is really funny because you did not look in my notebook, which is funny. But I feel like I'm just really excited to get some guy friends. Like, I feel like I know I said it before, but like I haven't been very successful with maintaining male friendships in the past because usually some expectation of romantic intention wheels its way into our friendship, and then it either changes the friendship so it's just not the same, or like sometimes it hasn't really ruined anything entirely, but sometimes it just makes it awkward. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like I'm just really excited to like get some guy friends and just hang out. Like guys are fun. Like I feel like I haven't hung out like the last night, like you and I hung out with like several men. Like I was the minority in the group, and that was so refreshing. Like, I feel like a lot of the times I hang out with women, and while I think it's very, very important for women to support women and to have female friendships, like, it was just very refreshing and fun to have guy friends. That it was, I don't know, just to, like, spend time with them, like, it was just, like, a different vibe in, like, a really good way.
Yeah.
I also feel like I'm really hoping to center myself with my relationship with Jesus and keep him as the priority. I feel like, for me personally, sometimes like the worldly man in front of me will distract me from like the heavenly man I'm supposed to be focusing on.
Whoa. I need like 2 minutes to process that.
Like, I feel like I'm like, oh yeah, God is great. God is awesome. Like, I love you, God. I need you. And then a man appears in front of me and I'm like, oh, never mind. I got one. Like, it's fine. It's fine. I'm just going to like go like idolize this man for a while. And so I feel like even in like the best relationship, which will turn into marriage, like you have to acknowledge that that man is not going to be your everything. You can't worship your husband. Like, you need to worship God, and like your husband and is going to like he's a tool for you to help you get to heaven. And so I feel like I'm really hoping to like solidify that in my brain. And so then like by the time I like get around to dating again, then I can keep that at the forefront, you could say.
Oh, that's so inspiring.
Yeah. It's like I practiced. I really
I'm
did.
excited for you.
Yeah, I feel like
this
I'm
will be
also
a fun journey.
I'm excited, but also I'm like, oh, this feels like, I don't know. I have such a dating mindset. Like, this is tough. But like I said,
That's
goes in
good.
waves.
That's good.
Yeah, this will definitely be a challenge for me. And so I know I'm going to grow. Whether I do it perfectly or not, I'm going to do my best.
That's all you can do,
Yeah.
as the priest said.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
those are all my notes
those are
about dating fast. So
yeah, there's a lot to talk about with dating and relationships, and
yeah, we've covered a lot.
we really have.
Yeah, this
So,
is the second part, and
it
we also
was.
spent 45 minutes talking on this one.
I know.
That's
I'm like,
crazy.
there's probably so much more that we could talk about,
Mhm.
but I feel like cutting it off here is probably a good spot to end the conversation. Well, not end the conversation, but
Put a bookmark in it.
yeah.
Until next time.
We'll come back to it later. Maybe in person. We'll talk.
Oh, that's an invitation to you, dear listener. We will talk.
Dear listener.
Don't even worry. Dearest gentle reader.
Bridgerton, is that you? Okay.
Yeah,
well,
that'll be great.
peace out
Yeah, thanks for sticking around. We love you all.
very much.
Have a good
And to
night.
all, a
Or good
night.
morning. Oh, that's
Oh.
okay.
It's giving Christmas. Anyways, goodbye.
Bye.